So as we all know, we are currently living in a very, very, very chaotic world where the times are very uncertain. We don't know what's going to happen next. We don't know exactly why certain things are happening. Those of us that are spiritually connected, we know why certain things are happening, but there's like, why are those particular situations targeted? It's a very trying time. It's a very scary time, if I'm being completely honest. I know it's a lot of us with the highest concerns, a lot of us with what ifs floating in the air. There's a lot of us that's scared to get up and turn on the news to see what has happening. Some of us are scared to walk out the house, baby. It's a very, very, very traumatic time. And there's a lot of uncertainty floating up in the air. And we don't know what to make of it. We don't know. Some of us may not know how to deal with it without getting too distracted, without getting too wrapped up in things that we simply cannot control. And so I want to speak on that today. And I want to speak on what to do in the midst of the storm. Not in the midst of a storm, in the midst of the storm, because we are in the storm right now. What to do in the midst of the storm and how to keep moving in the midst of the storm, because our world is a hot mess. So we're gonna get into it. We're gonna tap into it. We're gonna talk about some things. But before we do that, I do not want to be rude. So let me introduce myself. Hi babes, welcome back to the LVME Unbroken podcast. This is where we swallow the big pills, not the little ones. I am your host, Mercedes, and I am here to bring you some of the most difficult, harsh truths you probably ever heard in your life, and some that you just need to hear because those around you are probably not delivering them the way that they should. They are probably telling you everything you want to hear instead of everything you need to hear. And so I just think it's important for you to have someone in your corner. That someone being me, a complete stranger. Don't panic. You just need someone in your corner to tell you things that you need to hear, things that other people are just simply afraid to say because of whatever reason. So I'm your girl, and we're about to tap into a difficult subject because of so many recent events, so many things that's just happening every single day in so many different places in this world, not only in my own country, but in other countries outside of, the US. It's just so much happening. And when I tell you that I do not believe in coincidences, and all of these things are truly happening for a reason, there's a purpose behind every single thing. God is trying to get our attention. He is calling us. And this is the time, if you have not already, this is the time for you to build that relationship with God or strengthen that relationship with God. Do not, and I repeat, do not lose sight of God in these times. I know it's a lot going on, but you are not to get distracted. Your purpose is to get closer to God and to help others get closer to God. Spread the word, spread the gospel. Talk to people who may not know God. Let them know who He is. Give testimonies, whatever you got to do. This is the time, and it's plain as day. It's plain as day. And if you cannot see it, you may be spiritually blind, and that's okay, because then there's people like me and other people out in the world that can shed light on some things. But we are living through some very traumatic experiences, and there's people out here losing their lives to things that are senseless, things that just are very unexpected. And there's people that have family members that's losing their lives, friends that's losing their lives to these things, co-workers, colleagues, or whatever. And it's hitting home for a lot of us. And it seems to be getting closer and closer and closer. So this is a time that I think that we should all draw near to God, just stay in constant communication with Him. And we're going to dig into some specifics on what to do during these times, but it's time. And I know you've got to be hearing this message. I always get on TikTok and all the other socials and just see the same message. And it's just like, it's not a coincidence. God is calling us. God is calling you, and it's time. So I want to make it very clear what this episode is really about. I'm not here to worry you. I'm not here to stress you. I come out of love. I want to set the tone a little bit and to comfort you a bit. I just want to say that this episode is about finding peace, strength, and clarity in the middle of the storm, because everything that's happening around us in your personal life, in the world, all of these things that's happening, we have absolutely no control over, and they are going to happen. And it's most likely going to get worse. It's going to get worse. And there's absolutely nothing we can do to stop these situations. But something that you can control is your thoughts during these times. Something that you can control is choosing to have peace during these times, choosing to stay strong during these times, and choosing to not get too distracted by all the negative news, all the negative energy that's being put out into this world. So in this episode, we're learning to control what we can control, how we can control the things that we have power to control. So the first thing you have to do to fix the problem, there's always been this thing about how to fix problems. And if you've heard anything about fixing a problem, you've heard that the very first thing you have to do to fix a problem is to acknowledge the problem. In this case, the problem would be you not having peace during these times. The problem would be you not feeling strong during these times, you feeling afraid and not knowing what your next move is during these times. That's the problem. That's the problem, but it could apply differently in different people's lives. So I want to get into how do you identify what the exact problem is in your life, and kind of give some examples on what a storm is, or what a storm could be in your life. And a storm in your life could be a personal struggle. It could be a personal struggle with your health or your finances or your mental health or any other mental battles. It could be a personal struggle. Like maybe you just don't care. You don't even care about what's going on in the world. Maybe you have something internally that you're dealing with. Then that would be your problem. And then, like what I just mentioned, there could be global or worldly chaos. That could be another problem. Anything surrounding wars or politics or division or any other type of uncertainties in this world, that would be considered global or worldly chaos. That's another problem. And one other problem could be spiritual warfare. And this one is deep. Forget everything that's going on in the world as far as like, don't forget it, but the wars and stuff. That's nothing compared to some spiritual warfare. When you feel your faith being attacked, when you're starting to doubt God, when you're starting to question God, when you're starting to just feel lost, you're starting to feel unheard and unseen. Now that's a different type of battle. So 3 main issues could be personal struggles, whether it's finances, health, mental, whatever. It would be global or worldly chaos, and it would be spiritual warfare. Identify what it is that's bothering you the most. What is the biggest storm in your life? Which of those would you consider as the biggest storm in your life? So first, you have to identify that. With any of those situations, you have to learn how to recognize when you're in survival mode versus when you're in transformation mode. How are these things that's happening in your life or happening in the world or happening in the spiritual realm? How are you responding to these things? Are you responding as someone that's trying to just survive, or someone that's using these times to transform? Because we all know that it could get worse, because we all know that, we have to get ready. So are you using these times to are you simply just trying to survive in these times, or are you allowing these times to transform you, to change you, to help you grow? Now, since you know what the problem is, since you've finally sat for a second and hopefully figured out what the biggest issue is that you're facing, what your storm looks like, now let's talk about how to stand firm in whatever storm you're facing. And the number one thing I always tell people when I'm having conversations with my friends or family, any loved ones, or even coworkers, or anybody that I'm associated with, when I'm having conversations with people and they're talking about, their struggles and things that they're going through, one of the main things I always refer to, or main pieces of advice I always give people when they're trying to figure out how to make it through certain times, or how to make it, out of the darkness, I always talk about faith. I always talk about standing firm in faith and how powerful that faith is. because these storms are going to happen, but they also have to eventually pass in some way. Somehow they have to eventually pass. And because time is moving so fast, it's usually in the blink of an eye, you realize like you were just struggling so bad about a month ago. Now you look back to that time and you're just like, wow, I actually made it through that. But you also realize that during that time, you didn't think you were ever going to make it out. In the blink of an eye, you're on the other side. In the blink of an eye, you're moving on with life and you're not even bothered by whatever that thing was. You're not even bothered. That's what it looks like when you have faith. Yeah, we're human. So naturally you're going to be scared. Naturally you will worry, but you also have that thought in the back of your mind, like you already know everything's going to be fine. Yeah, it's not a good feeling while you're in it, but you already know that everything is going to be just fine. So that faith carries you through the darkest moments of your life. That faith will carry you through the lowest moments of your life if you allow it to. And if you make that your priority. During these times where it seems like everything is spinning out of control, you have to constantly remind yourself that God is still in control. He is the King of Kings, He's the Lord of Lords, and He is sitting on that throne and He's controlling every single thing happening in this world. It's unfortunate. There's certain things there's a lot of things that's unfortunate. It's sad, but they have to happen. There's a lot of revealing going on. There's a lot of exposing going on, and those things have to happen. It's not good news to hear. There's a lot of people that's being exposed for things. The light has to be shed on some of the darkest things happening in this world. So just make sure that you are just staying grounded in your faith and not allowing the distractions of this world, because they are distractions ultimately, but not allowing those things to overwhelm you and take control over your life and how you operate in your day-to-day. You also, oh my goodness, this one's so important. You also have to limit your intake of negativity. Oh my goodness, there's some of y'all out here, you get online, as soon as you wake up, you get on social media trying to find out what bad has happened, or unintentionally you've gotten on social media. You spent about an hour or two or maybe 3 or 4 on social media and you've seen so many bad things happening. You have to be able to limit the amount of negativity you intake. Baby, turn the news off. I tell my people this all the time, baby. I'm not sitting there all day watching the news. I always wondered how my grandfather and grandmothers and my elders, I've always wondered how they just sat there and just watched the news all day when it is so depressing. Don't get me wrong now, don't take anything away from this. It's good to know what's going on in the world, but to sit there and constantly feed your mind and remind yourself of what's going on in the world. Okay, yes, you've heard of this news one time on social media. You do not need to go turn on the news and try to get all the details. Listen, it happened. This is what happened. Do not constantly feed your mind with negativity. It will distract you and it will put you in a very dark place if you allow it. You need to learn how to shift your focus a bit. If that means that you just need to get off social media for a while, then so be it. Say goodbye. During these times, you also need to surround yourself around the right voices. You don't want anybody feeding anything to you. You want people around you that will encourage you to take accountability, that serves as a good, wholesome community. You don't want people that's just always negative. Yes, there's a lot of negative things going on in the world, but you don't have to be negative about it. You can be optimistic about it. You can surround yourself with people that always see the light in the darkness and the more positive end of things. I think that's very important. And lastly, learn how to control what you can control and release what you can't. Don't try to control anything. Don't try to, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? When it's very clear that there's nothing that we can do to stop what's going to happen. If that was the case, all of our loved ones will still be here. If that was the case, we will all just choose to live forever and never leave this earth. But you can't control anything. It's not in your hands. It's in God's. And it's important for you to always keep that at the forefront of your mental. Keep that at the forefront of your thoughts. This is God's world. We're just living in it. And it's that simple. So what are some practical steps you can take to find peace, to remain peaceful? One thing that you can do is, which I think is very obvious, is just for you to pray daily. Pray every chance you get. I'm not talking about wake up just one time and pray. Just talk to God throughout the day. Prayer is anytime, anywhere, any place. Stay in constant communication with God and just pray. There's no limit to the amount of times you can pray. There's no limit to the amount of things you can pray for or pray about. Just stay in constant communication and meditation. Turn off what's going on in the world. for a second and just talk to God. Keep him at the center of everything that you have going on in your life. It's very important for us to continue to serve other people. I do believe that that is one of our main purposes here, is to serve other people. Focus on that. There are people out here that are going through things much worse than you are. We cannot be selfish. Just when you think it cannot get worse, it can. And suddenly you hear a story about somebody else that's going through something 1,000 times worse than you. Serve other people. Learn how to find out what you can do to be there for other people. Because it's not about ourselves. It's always about others. Always about others. Try journaling and just reflecting. If you feel like you don't have anybody to talk to, if you don't know how to pray out loud, just write it down. Write down what you're feeling and reflect on how you're handling things. Reflect on how you allow things, if at all, to get to you. Reflect on it and start soul searching and finding ways to not get so distracted with those things. And lastly, to find peace, man, just take care of yourself. Take care of your body. And that includes everything: your mind, your mental, your physical body, everything, your spiritual side. Take care of your body. Take care of your body. I think that's a good focal point for a lot of us, for all of us, actually. In the midst of the storm, I think it's also important for us to learn the power of shifting our perspectives. Don't look at the glass half empty, look at it half full. Instead of asking, why is this happening? Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening in the world? Why is this happening to them? Ask yourself, what is it teaching me? And take what you can out of that lesson. Because 10 times out of 10, everything that's happening, everything that's going on in this world, every storm that we encounter, it's always there to teach us something. It's never really there to hurt us. At least I don't believe that. It's always there to teach us something, to help us along the way, to help us grow. Ask yourself, what is this teaching me? Instead of asking, why is this happening? In the midst of the storm that we're all going through, I want to remind you that God is not absent. He hasn't left us. He hears us. He sees us. He knows exactly what's going on. He's intentional and he's not absent. He's simply working behind the scenes. And with everything going on, you just feel like he's nowhere to be found. And I know that. I felt that feeling before, but he's always working on our behalf. He's orchestrating every single thing that's happening in our world to help us in some type of way, to help us seek him, to help us find him, to help us hear him, to learn what it is that we should be doing, to help us find our purpose. It's all orchestrated to help us. You just have to believe it. I want to also remind you that the storm is temporary. I know it doesn't feel like it. There's always an out. There's always a brighter day ahead and clear skies. The storm is temporary, but your growth is permanent. And that's why it's important for you to ask, what is this teaching me? Instead of asking, why is this happening? Don't let it pass you by without you learning something, without you taking something from it and applying it to your life and allowing it to transform you in some type of way. Do not let it pass you by. I also want to remind you and myself that we were built to withstand these storms. Every single last one of us. We were built for this. I don't care how you feel about it. We were built for this. It was perfectly orchestrated. You cannot fail. You will not fail. I want to encourage all of you and myself, because I'm always talking to myself too when I'm speaking on these topics and sending messages. I want to encourage us to continuously take steps towards having faith, continuously take steps towards having peace and joy in the storm, whatever it takes, no matter what you do not allow these storms in this messy world, in this very chaotic, traumatizing world. Do not allow it to distract you from what's bigger. Do not allow it to distract you from your path. Do not allow it that much power. Do not give these storms that much power over your life. You're more powerful than that. May you find strength in these storms. May you find God in these storms. And may you find a way to make him your center during these storms. I really hope this helps. And as a comforting reminder, I just want to tell you guys that we're all in this together. We're all suffering something. We're all going through these storms together. We're a community and we're going through it together. And that thought in itself should comfort you. I really hope this helps. I really hope it's soothing. I really hope it calms your mind and provides you the peace that you deserve, the peace that you've been constantly searching for. I will talk to you guys very, very, very soon, God willing. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves.
I wanna go to Cali way, close to your love again. I give my heart again, Jesus. I wanna go to Cali way.